In South Louisiana, there once lived a man who made love to a woman on the back seat of a Greyhound bus. She was a traveling whore, and he was a craw fisherman who drank moonshine for a living. They knew each other for a total of 8 hours, and she thought he might get off with her. But his home was on the river. They parted ways and never met again. When this mother gave birth to the man's child, she did so in the penthouse jacuzzi of a downtown brothel in New Orleans. His mother was able to hold him in her arms for the next 3 months to nurture, before he was taken away and she sent back to work. He was kept in an impoverished home on the edge of a ghetto with a number of other adolescents of all ages, and cared for by disturbed old women on crack and desolate drug-addicted housemaids. The infants wallowed with animals and lived in filth of all description. One day the woman, to be his only valid mother in life, came dressed in a cold white suit, accompanied by 3 dangerous men and a gaggle of whores. She walked through, examining the contours of each boy's skull and chest, testing the joints of the hands, before she left, with 2 4-year-old girls and the 1-year-old boy as foretold. For the next 18 years before he went to Vietnam, he lived in a barbecue house with that she-pimp, and for the duration of his life, he knew her none other than as his true beloved mother. When he turned 5, she sent him to a piano school for 3 years, and when he got back, she put him to work playing piano in her barroom. When he was 10 years old, he lost his virginity to one of the girls he was purchased with. He slept in a feather bed and ate steak and lobster for his dinners. 13 years old, his mother watched a man spit on his piano for not knowing a song, and 2 of the watched men assassinated by the 3 dangerous men. At 15, he knifed a man for assaulting his sister, and never finds out if he lived or died. By the time he was 16, he was married and had a daughter and a son from different women. The trouble didn't start when he went to Vietnam. It started before he picked up the guitar. He played in bars, country fairs, gypsy camps, river camps, barbecue houses, and pool halls for 2 years before he was drafted. He went to war and developed a taste for blood, but more so a taste for liquor. He tried his hand at battle, and he tried his hand at torture. He tried it at murder and at mass murder. He got to know death on a personal level. He saw it clear-headed. He saw it on LSD, and later he got addicted to Vietnamese smack. He saw death in the morning and he saw death at night. He learned what human flesh tastes like. He paid for sex with the soft, dark-skinned village girls. His hair grows with the progress into degeneracy, and as the trauma evolves within his soul, the long hair fades into a strange, dead fringe of pale. He returned from Vietnam drunk, crazed with war, craving drugs, half-deranged, and missing the jungle. He returned to the she-pimp and his wife and children for a brief time to get his guitar, and then spent the next 10 years of his life trudging back and forth through the swamps of Louisiana. He lived off frogs and fish. He searched for redemption. He met with a band of outlaw ramblers who all happened to be gifted musicians. 2 of whom played fiddle, 4 played banjo, 5 could sing, and 1 played accordion. Together they migrated around the region, playing their music for the gypsies and the backwoods Cajun church groups. Their singer one night disappeared and was eaten by heathen cannibals in the swamp and was never heard of again, so our subject had to take over singing from that point on. It was when he began making moonshine that he ventured back into the outer world. He started performing at bar dances, honky-tonks, and bars that were lit by torchlight. People began to know who he was. There was fighting and drinking and gambling. There were shootouts, knife fights, and rapes. From time to time, he would return to his old home, the barbecue house, to see his children and fulfill his latest fantasies. Eventually, his legs became too much to bear, and when he came around the 3 dangerous men, he had to fend them off. The last time he came back, there was a struggle, and then there was a knife fight, followed by a shooting. One of the 3 dangerous men lost their lives that night, and he was sent to prison for 10 years. When he was released, he began walking west. When he finally made it to New Vegas, he was a new man, But along the way he encountered hunters, gatherers, warriors, gangsters, cowards, degenerate gamblers, crooked cops, serial killers, men on the run, women with money, used car salesmen, road agents, UFO enthusiasts, ghosts, witches, solitary Indians still with painted horses and put feathers in their hair, men whom are disturbed even beyond cosmic comprehension, and those who are just more than happy. He was arrested over 10 times for drunkenness, fights, robberies, threats. He was suspected of both rape and murder on 2 separate occasions each, and once just beaten and released. He hopped a train and rode it for 2 months until he got off in Minneapolis, where he stopped drinking briefly. But as sure as the sun would rise, when he arose, he started drinking again and gambling and playing his guitar. He soon got a job as a showman, and the next year of his life was a simple blur of lunacy. When he came out of it all, he had joined the circus. Being a Cajun by blood, he had a way of charming snakes. He is standing on a pedestal, dressed in primitive clothing of horsehair and dogskin. His skin is painted white with red eyes, and he is playing a large flute made of bone. His hair is spliced up with clay and ornamented with natural jewelry and the skulls of tiny animals. His face and forehead are pasted with tiny shards of broken mirror. The crowd looked on in horror as he transformed from beast to man and back again as his realizations betrayed him. He wants to get down, he wants to go home, but all he can control is his thought. The crowd looks on at the basket, as does he. The flying trapezes, the dancing bear, the man who breathes fire, and the man juggling chainsaws, the 2-headed lady and the 2-headed dog, all surround. By and by, a dwarf passes, flinging confetti, and the pyromaniac makes a treacherous gauntlet of bleeding flame. The pandemonium builds, and the pandemonium builds. He soon notices the trees surrounding the events. He notices the color of the air. He smells the swamp. He knows that he is home. He is happy he will die at home. He is happy he will finally die so he can learn the true meaning of life. Dying. When the hooded serpent glares its mortal eyes up and out of the basket, he sees a light. The neck comes up slow and lovely. When the basket falls, he knows he won't get out of it, and he wouldn't have it any other way.